What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm here in the garage today. I have a few parts to install that I've had for a few weeks, just haven't had the time to get to them. So we're going to get into that today, and I'm going to try to get as much done as I can because I got some pretty big news I'm going to share at the end of the video. Part number if you're interested. Skunk2 rear camber kit. Part number. PCI tie rods and PCI rear toe arms or toe links. Get into opening all these pretty things here. I haven't even really looked at them yet. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. Fancy owner's kit. These are pretty sick, actually. Alright, let's pop these suckers open. Packaged very nicely. I don't like that. I want to try to save the packaging. Hold on real quick. Let's open these suckers up. Alright, so if you guys are familiar with Hondas and quality parts, you'll probably know PCI. They make some really cool stuff. These are a full spherical rear toe link. The only reason I really got these is because I still have the factory ones on the car. Bushings are old, wore out, and my whole goal here with these PCI spherical parts is to limit toe change while on track. I don't want to go full spherical with this car because I want to keep it somewhat, streetable, and I don't want it super clunky and rough and loud and all that. So for now, keywords for now, because I'm sure I'll change my mind eventually, these are the only spherical parts I'm going with. Basically, like I said, just to limit toe change as much as possible, even though you can't completely do that. But and here I have their really nice spherical outer tie rods, and these have different spacers and whatnot. The whole purpose of these really is to also mitigate toe change and reduce bump steer, because these can correct the angle of the tie rods, which if you want to learn more about bump steer, I'd say watch another video that's more tailored to explaining that stuff. Basically, if your tie rods are at an angle, when you hit a bump, it's going to actually pull and jerk your wheel as you hit bumps, hence the name bump steer. So that's what these can help correct. These are very, very nice. They're kind of pricey, but just by looking at them, well worth the money. And now these, and you might be wondering why I didn't go with the PCI rear camber kit, which is a very nice piece. Like I said, my reasoning is I just want to keep this thing streetable. When you go full on spherical, you start getting some pretty clunky sounds, and it's very, I don't want to say unstreetable, but it's not very comfortable on the street. So that's the purpose of these. These are stiffened rubber bushing. These are going to be, more sturdy, way less deflection than what's on there now. It's not factory. If you've watched the previous videos on the car, I put a Amazon special kit on there just because I was running low on funds at the time and I needed something. They're junk, I don't like them. I had to adjust the center adjuster way the heck out just to get it to factory length, to where, you know, exact measurements of the factory one, and it's still, you know, cambered in like crazy. And if I was to try to correct that camber even more, I'm actually afraid the threads would pull out of the center adjuster. That's why I went with these. These look way more proper. And from what I read, this link, because if you can tell, it's not even properly oriented right now, actually is more like a spherical than a solid rubber bushing. Let me show you. See how easy that turns? So even though it's a hard rubber bushing, you still get almost that spherical motion out of this piece, which is, you know, where it's going to pivot. Same here. So spherical motion, kinda. You don't get that binding and all that with the factory rubber bushing, the captive like bushings. So I'm pretty stoked on this. It's you know, super nice piece. I believe these are forged even. Very, very nice. So we're gonna get into installing those. I'm probably gonna start on the rear first, since I have more to do back there. Jack this thing up, get it on jack stands, we'll do that, pull the wheels off. I'll go ahead with the tie rods, and before I get the wheels back on, I'm going to attempt rolling the rear quarters. Now this has freaked me out for a long time. I should have done it before I had the car painted way back when. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just, I don't know. Live and learn. So now I have to deal with it. This paint is far from fresh. This paint job is about 10 years old now. So, you know, and it's got flaws and whatever. It's not perfect anymore. It's fine. I'm just going to do my best, take my time with the heat gun, go very, very slow. If it takes me hours, it takes me hours. I don't really care. I just don't want to crack the paint. So I bought a, you know, cheap Chinese Fender rolling tool, Eastwood one, whatever. So we're going to do that as well, and then I'll get the toe plates out, try to do a pretty rough toe adjustment myself, adjust the camber. The front camber is fine where it's at, and then I will be getting a proper alignment on a rack when the time comes. Alright, car is on jack stands, wheels off. Kind of crazy. Last time this thing was on jack stands in here was 2014, I believe. Pretty crazy. It wasn't here, it was on this side of the garage, but whatever. 10 years. Getting familiarized with this car again underneath. There's some things, questionable things I need to look at that I didn't notice before, because I really, to be honest, since I got this car, I haven't been really underneath the thing. I just pretty much did what I needed to do. Did a nut and bolt check, but I didn't go really underneath. I'll show you later. Anyway, parts in question. Let me grab a light. These were a, like I said, Amazon special camber kit. DNA motoring, I believe was the name. Not very good. I wouldn't recommend. Should have known. They were pretty cheap. Like I said, I was on a budget at the time. Don't judge me. And then the toe arms are down there, which I'll try to get the camera underneath there and show you when I get there. But yeah, I'm going to do this first, and then I'll get into starting to roll these quarters, I think, before I even start on the front. And like I said, I'm pretty dang nervous. Alright, there's the piece of junk in question. So you can see, it's already threaded out pretty far just to get to the length of the factory one. Skunk one, look at that. Length is nearly identical all the way in. So what that tells me is I'm going to start out with negative camber, and I can't go any farther than that, which is fine, because where the camber was, I don't know how many degrees it was, but it was plenty far. I'll never need to go any further than where this will put me where it's at right now, which will give me a load of positive camber correction, which is what I need, because it was just too much. I want to say, if I had to guess, it's probably about 5 degrees. I'll measure it, because I'm going to put this back on right where it's at. We'll measure the camber where it was and see, and then we're gonna fix it. I don't know where I'm gonna try to end up. Haven't quite figured that out yet, what specs I'm gonna run, but I'm pretty stoked on this. And you could just see the quality difference. Cast, cheap bushings. I don't know. These are probably aluminum if I had to guess, but I'm not sure. This is a nice forged piece. Everything about it just so much better. Alright, my caliper is not quite big enough. It's only a 6-inch, so we're going to go here. Just get roughly where we're at. Center to center is about 6.5 inches. This one is currently at about a little over, we're about 6.25. So just spinning this adjuster here effectively increases the length without having to undo anything. Alright, that's a good starting point. Put these lock nuts down so it can't move. And we'll be good to go. Like I said, throw it in real quick. We'll adjust camber later, especially after I roll the quarters. I'm definitely going to want to decrease the negative camber. That is roughly in. I will find the torque specs later. Properly torque those bolts. Alright guys, other side is installed. Looking beautiful. These things are pretty dang nice. Something I didn't mention in this video, I know I have before. This is one of the next pieces on the list, although it's going to be pretty pricey. These coilovers, these are a full coilover. These are a full coilover. They're an old Japanese brand called Section. Bought these 20 years ago. Let me repeat that. 20 years ago these things were purchased brand new. So they are very old tech. I definitely need something better, but for this season they're going to stay on. They still ride okay. They're stiff, but there's, you know, to adjust the height, you have to actually change the spring height, which changes preload, all that. There's no damping adjustment at all, so definitely need for an upgrade, but, you know, funds. We'll get there. Okay, next on the list. These suckers right here. Have a feeling they're probably not going to be very fun to get out because they haven't been out in quite some time. I'm actually seeing a little bit of surface rust under here I need to combat before it gets bad. It's still no big deal. You can see that hole right here. The adjuster, or rather the, I guess you can call it a captive nut in there that slides. There's a slotted area it slides in, was seized up at one time. Actually had to go through a bunch of stuff to get it out, but I did that hole there so I can get in there, and I never patched it up. And now there is a little surface rust on the edge, so I'm gonna need to handle that too. I want this car to last forever, at least for my lifetime, so that's gonna have to be messed with today too. There's a little bit everywhere. It's all very light, and I noticed this jack point got severely caved, so is what it is. I might try to weld some studs to that and pull it out at a later date. For now, it's not a big deal. Alright, let's get to these. I don't know how easily I'm going to be able to show this. I don't have the car very high, so I'll do what I can. Alright guys, I could not get a camera under there. It was way too tight. But these things came out pretty good. Anti-seize on the bolts. Trust me, if you're from the Midwest or anywhere that you get moisture or rust, a little bit of anti-seize where the bolt goes through that bushing, it will save you, trust me. But here's our new piece and old piece. Looks like they are pretty damn near the same size. But I'd say weight-wise, PCI one's slightly lighter, which is not really a big deal. This is the gain here. These things can deflect pretty severely. And just with the nature of the trailing arms, the way the Civic rear suspension is, this plus your main trailing arm bushing, which is right there, deflect a lot and can affect your toe. I do have an old bushing kit in the car. They're basically new because this car's had hardly any miles since I assembled it in 2015. A company that was owned by some friends of mine called Suja Motoring developed a hard bushing kit with a suspension company that's no longer around called, I call it PIC, Performance Suspension. They made some really nice coilovers back in the day, but they had a joint venture with this bushing kit, and I believe they were like an 85A durometer rating, which is pretty high, but still streetable. So those are pretty solid still. They look brand new. They, like I said, hardly, you know, a couple thousand miles on this car since I assembled it, which is cool. So I think the rest of that stuff's going to be fine. These are going to mitigate, like I said, our possible toe changes. So I'm going to go ahead and get these popped in there, and I'll show you guys the final result with that because it's too hard to film under there. Alright, so the rear is mostly done. Can't really get in there and show you right now. Doing some rust repair prevention on that surface rust I talked about. So while that's doing its thing, I'm going to get up here and mess with these tie rods. These are just like a old, to be honest, I don't really remember if they were parts store ones or if I got them online, but either way, they're just OEM replacements, nothing special. And we're going to place them with these very beefy, high quality looking PCI spherical ones. Got to read the directions so I can see you know, what's up with the spacers and what I need to do and all that. Just noticed there's no cotter pin on this or up there on the upper ball joint, so I'm kind of glad I'm doing this anyway. Okay guys, if you're going to do this kit yourself, you'll see right here in this paragraph, it says the lowered part of the tapered hole of the spindle steering arm will need to be hand filed to fit this bolt, because this bolt is much larger than the factory lower ball joint, or the factory ball joint bolt. You see there, it does not fit. So I'm going to take a small file that out, and I'm going to do it by hand. I don't want to go overboard. And then after that, it's pretty straightforward to get to the factory setting where it originally was. You'll use, they have this figured out pretty well apparently, 4 spacers on top, 1 spacer on the bottom, and then you have this little tapered guy that will go in the tapered part of the spindle, or the knuckle as I call it. So pretty easy. I'm just going to file out that hole. Should be pretty simple. I already have this thing set to length, which I know I'm going to have to adjust toe when I'm done. I know it's not going to be perfect. As for the bump steer, I don't have a proper way to measure bump steer. Maybe someday, if it really matters, I'll take this thing to someone that knows how to set up chassis and has a bump steer gauge and is capable of doing it properly. I don't want to mess with that. I'm going to trust PCI and their factory settings. I think it'll be close enough for what I'm doing. I mean, this thing's a single cam. After all, I'm not going to be going that fast. It's going to be fine. I trust it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to be jumping back and forth between the back as I go. It's kind of hard to hold the camera with one hand, but, you know, I'm trying here. So I have this here long rasp. I'm going to go through the bottom like so. Go gently around. So I could do this with a carbide bit or something, but I don't want to go overboard, just in case I don't want to ruin the knuckle. They say that this has no bearing on going back to a standard one because your taper that matters is still there. This is just widening out the bottom part of it. It's not a big deal, so don't worry about it. That took me all of about 2 minutes. That was very, very simple. No big deal at all. So first thing, drop in our tapered adapter. It's nice and snug in there. Thread on our actual tie rod. Ooh. Okay. Don't lose your misalignment spacers. Take those out. Like I said, I do have this adjusted about to the length of the factory one. Stick with it right there. 1 spacer in on the bottom. 4 spacers on the top. Our misalignments back in. Come on. Alright. This is hard to do with one hand, guys. Okay. Our misalignment guys are in. 4 spacers up the top. And there we go. Goes on the bottom. Got to torque that puppy down. Pretty nice. I dig it. It looks good. Alright guys, driver's side installed. Just need to adjust the toe. Now, moving on from there. That was very, very easy installation, to be honest. I mean, that was about as easy as it gets. So they have that stuff pretty dialed. I'm gonna get into finishing. I got this other last toe link to put in. The rust prevention spray I put on there should be about done doing its thing. I'm gonna clean all that off, dry it, paint it, and it should be good for years to come. And I'll feel much better about it, because if I had just moved on knowing that was there, wouldn't have liked it. All right, guys, the time has come to roll these quarters. Like I said, I am very, very freaking nervous, but got all underneath stuff done. The other side still has some paint drying before I can put the toe link on, but this side is all bolted up and ready to go. So I'm gonna bolt my Fender roller tool on and heat this up. I already did clean the backside of this really well. If you're ever gonna do this, you wanna clean up in there, just so you're not pinching any dirt and stuff up in there. So that's all clean. I'm gonna hit this with the heat gun and just take it real slow. Like I said, I don't care if it takes me a while. Hours, I don't care. I just don't want to crack these quarters. That was stressful, guys. Overall, I think it went okay. I got one little crack. It is what it is, you know. There is actually a little spot on this quarter where the paint had a separation anyway, so it's not really the biggest deal. To me, the worst part is on the inside of the lip, the paint just chipped and peeled everywhere, just not good enough prep before paint. Not the end of the world, because it is pushed all the way up in there, so I'm just going to scuff it. I have some touch up of this exact color. I'm just going to touch it up. I might even try to do something with that little crack. Show you guys here. If I can get the camera to see it right there. Very, very slight crack. See right there, that's actually not rust. There is no rust on the car at all. It just, there was some filler there separated or something, so I got to deal with that anyway. The quarter panel's gonna have to be resprayed at some point, but this this process was kind of difficult. This fender roller, not meant for, I guess, a wheel well this small. I actually had to disconnect the sway bar, undo the lower coilover bolt, and actually extend the upper camber arm as far as it would possibly go, just to get this thing to drop enough to get enough height. And I know it may not look like it because this thing's adjusted up right now, but when it started, it was it was pretty tough to figure out, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. I got the lip almost completely pinched and folded in, so I'll definitely have a ½ inch more room than I had before to adjust camber, which is going to be huge. So I'm going to go on to the other side. I won't show you that. It just takes forever. I'll probably scuff this up too, do that touch-up paint, try to do that little spot before I go too far. Everything that I set out to do today, I actually got done amazingly in about 5 hours. Front tie rods installed, rear camber kit, rear links, toe links, and I rolled the rear quarters. So still on jack stands. I'm gonna leave it here for the night, clean up, and come back out tomorrow. And I'm going to do a string alignment on the car. I have toe plates, some jack stands, and some string. That's all I need for now. Gonna do a decent alignment. I'll get it pretty dang close. But this quarter actually rolled pretty dang good. A little bit of deformation right here. Not sure why, but it is what it is. I don't want to keep going and possibly crack something. It's just going to have to live like that, and that's fine. You know, it is what it is. Just a car. I'm tracking this thing this year, so, you know, things may happen. I plan on, you know, fixing this quarter anyway someday. If I have to repaint the whole car, I have to repaint the whole car. It's not going to happen anytime soon. I got a lot of other things I need to do. A little bit of wrinkle and a small crack in the quarter is not going to upset me very much. This car is not perfect anyway. All right, it is the next day. Everything that I did yesterday is on. Wheels are back on, car's on the ground. Time for a basic string alignment in the garage. So here she is sitting. I raised the rear just a tad because I am going to be adding some positive camber. But now that I rolled it, I should have plenty of room. And I got one of my toe plates set up on here, which is kind of just giving me a way to gauge this. And my digital gauge is dead, the batteries are dead, but if you can see that, the camera will focus good enough. It's right under, just under 5 degrees, probably 4.5 degrees, which is far too much. And this is pretty much what it sat at before. I'm going to try to get it near 2 degrees if I can, maybe even a little less. I've been looking at some track specs, seeing what people use for their alignment specs, and some people even go as far as like 1.5 negative. So I'm going to try to get around 2. That's my goal. So I'm going to jack it up in the rear, adjust it, lower it back down. It's going to be a bunch of up and down, and I have to get the camber dialed in before I do the toe, because camber will change toe. So camber first, then I'll set up with the string, and we'll get our toe dialed in as best as we can, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, camber. I don't know if the camera can really show that, probably not. 2 degrees, right at 2. This side, for whatever reason, took more adjustment. I don't know why, to get it where it needed to be. Sorry about all the camera movement there. 2 degrees. So that's good. Like I said, I was finding specs right around 1.75, 2 degrees rear. I checked the front. We're almost right at 3, maybe just a touch under, which is about perfect as well. So camber is now good. I actually like the way it looks now too. I'm not a big stancy boy. I like that wheel to look, you know, not crazy angled in. And it looks a lot closer to the front now. Before it was way in there before, not really my style. So I think that's going to give us better driving characteristics anyway. This thing felt real, can't quite describe it. And I've never taken it on track, mind you, just quick turns on the street. The rear just felt twitchy or something. I don't really know. We'll see. The toe is probably way off. I don't really know. We're going to see. So set up my strings, and I'll try to show it the best I can and what I'm doing. Alright guys, this is our setup. 4 jack stands, preferably the same ones, so you can kind of measure more easily. Just some, regular string, construction use string. And what I do is I get them behind and in front of the car so they're easier to measure. And then I find 2 points on the body that I know are gonna be pretty damn unmovable. So from the quarter to the string, and then from the edge of the fender to the string, and you can measure a couple different points if you'd like, and then measure between your string from jack stand to jack stand. There's really no way to square it at a diagonal this way, but this is pretty close of a box. Basically what you're doing is getting the car inside of a box, if that makes sense. So we know our string is even from side to side. Now we can actually measure. Let me use a rule. So what you want to do is go off the edge of your wheel to the string. That one is right at 1 inch. And here we are at 1 inch and a 1/16. So 1/16 toed out, which is actually what I want, so that's pretty cool. I don't have to touch that one. Let's see this one. 1 inch and 1/8. 1 inch and 1/8. So this one's 0 toe. So I need to toe that one out just a touch, which should be pretty easy. Let's check our fronts. I'm amazed that that rear is as close as it is. I don't think the front we're going to be that fortunate. So we are right just over, like a 32nd over 1 inch. Here we are, oh yeah, way in 3/4. So we are toed out, actually, if that makes sense. So the number moves closer to 1. It's toed out. Does that make sense? So we're toed out about a 1/4 inch right there. And 1 and 7/8. So we're toed out. Or I'm sorry, we're toed in. Duh. So we're toed in. What did I say? 1/8 of an inch. Which I need to check my specs. That might actually be right. That might be where I want it. So I know it's kind of a lot to grasp. It's really not that difficult once you wrap your head around it. And this will not get you perfect. It's not going to be as good as an alignment rack. This will actually get you close. You're not eating your tires up. You could do a little bit of street driving till you can get in alignment. Unless you start seeing funky tire wear, then you mess something up. But this will get you pretty dang close. I'm amazed that it's actually as close as it is right now. I don't have a whole lot of adjustment to do, which is pretty sweet. So, be a lot of up and down adjustments, jacking it up and down, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully I don't have to take the wheels off. I don't think I'll have to. And lock everything in, and we're good to go. Alright guys, after a bunch of up and down, a bunch of measuring and back and forth, I think I've got it pretty close. Specs call for what I found about an 1/8 inch total of toe out in the front, which is right about what I got. I verified it with the toe plates also, so I wasn't just using the string. I wanted to double check, and it looks pretty damn good. Once again, I feel like I had to adjust this side a little more. I don't know what that's about, but just got to lock everything down, and if I have time, take it for a drive, see how it feels. But that is a basic string alignment. I know I didn't show a ton of it. There's videos out on YouTube if you want to see it, but it's a little time consuming, and I will get this thing to a rack before I take it out racing, because I just want it to be perfect. But overall, I like the look of it. I'm really loving the rear camber, positive camber that I put back into it. It just looks better to me, not so stancy. And I even raised it a tad, so now it's sitting about level with the front, because before it was kind of dumped in the back for whatever reason. So it's looking good. And I think I'm going to end it here. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I know I didn't go too in-depth to everything, but, you know, I'm sure you've seen this stuff before. I just wanted to show you what I'm doing. So I'm pretty stoked with it. Nice parts, installed nicely, really quality stuff. Always goes in nice, which is sweet. You know, not a lot of double checking and stuff like that. Or a lot of fuss putting stuff in. It all went in perfect. So that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. And I do have some plans. Next video will probably be some fabrication work. I have a few little projects I want to do. I got 3 or 4 to pick from. I'm not sure what I'm going to do first. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please like it. Throw me a comment. Tell me what you thought or what you want to see. And if you like the content, please subscribe. I hope to see you next time. Before I go, guys, I got some pretty big news. I signed up for my first track day. I've been wanting to do this for 20 years at least, since before I even got this car. But so over 20 years for sure. But really since I got this car. That was the whole goal with this thing before. When I tore it down, turned it into a full track car, and then got rid of it. Now it's back to kind of a street car, which is fine. Either way, signed up. I'll be at West Michigan Honda Meet, put on by Grid Life. It is July 13th, 14th this year. I am freaking stoked. I signed up for beginner, HPDE, so I don't really care. I just want to get out there and learn. I'm so excited to be doing it with that car, because that was my main goal in the beginning. So if you guys are going to be there, I will see you there. Otherwise, we've got a lot of work to do before that day comes. Peace.